All right, welcome back. We're going to go to Ottawa right now where Sean Fraser, the federal justice minister, speaking to reporters about the Carney government's newly tabled hate crimes bill, banning the use of terror and hate symbols, also related, of course, to religious places of worship and institutions. Let's listen in to the justice minister.
Someone who is not simply conducting a criminal activity, but who's motivated by their hatred towards an entire group of people. Ce matin, j'ai déposé un projet de loi dans la Chambre des communes pour lutter
of Commons to combat hate crime across the country. This is to ensure that all Canadians have the ability to live with freedom without having problems related to hate. Unfortunately, that is very difficult for some people who live in minority situation communities to enjoy those same liberties when there are hate crimes.
About the many examples that we've seen over the years. Not too long ago in my community, we've seen charges laid for someone advocating genocide against their Jewish neighbors. We have seen recently synagogues in Halifax vandalized with hate symbols. We have seen violent attacks against people in Montreal because they are Jewish. We have seen the desecration of the National Holocaust Memorial. We have seen Muslim Canadians suffer discrimination for many years. We have seen, again, not far removed from my home, harassment of those seeking to attend a mosque which only recently opened in the community. We have seen shootings in Quebec cities and van attacks in London that have claimed the lives of innocent people. Sadly, there is no community that is immune from hate in this country. There are violent attacks against Black Canadians, rising anti-Asian hate. We see gurdwaras and mandirs vandalized, and the LGBTQ2+ community threatened with and suffering violence all too often. We are moving forward with a piece of legislation that will create 4 new criminal offences. The first 2 are aimed at protecting religious institutions with the new crimes of obstruction and intimidation. This will ensure those who gather to practice their faith at religious institutions, schools, community centres, and other buildings and structures that primarily serve identifiable communities will have the ability to do so freely and without fear that they will be targeted because of who they are. We also have realized through many conversations with those impacted by hate crimes in Canada that hate is not limited to the doorsteps of our religious institutions, but is prevalent throughout the entirety of our communities. We see it in our streets, we see it in our parks, we see it in our grocery stores. Frankly, we see it almost everywhere. In addition to the campaign commitments around the crimes of obstruction and intimidation, we are moving forward with establishing a new crime of hate. This will operate by layering on top of existing criminal offences with a new offence that will specifically target hate where that crime was committed because of their motivation of hatred towards the victim. You can imagine that it may be more morally culpable for a person who assaults another, not just because of a personal problem they may have, but because of their belonging to a community. If a person robs a store because the owner comes from a particular group, or if a person commits harassment against someone who is seeking to attend university classes merely because they belong to a particular community of faith or race. This behavior is not just morally culpable. The impact has reverberations through the entirety of a community, and I would argue tears at the seams of the social fabric of the nation. Pour contrer la montée de la haine, notre gouvernement a déposé aujourd'hui à la Chambre un projet de loi qui
in the House a bill that modifies the criminal code. It will protect schools and community centers against hate-motivated crime, banning the use of terrorist or hate symbols that voluntarily promotes hate against an identifiable group, and clarifying the definition of hate.
Obstruction, intimidation, and hate. We are also moving forward with an additional offence of the willful promotion of hate through the use of hate symbols. Specifically enumerated will be particular symbols associated with a period of history involving Nazis' discrimination against Jews and the targeting of Jews in the Holocaust, as well as the symbols specifically tied to listed terror organizations. In addition to these new offenses, we are taking certain steps that will make it easier for law enforcement to take action. This comes directly from feedback that we've had with conversations with law enforcement over the course of the summer, including adding a definition of hatred to the criminal code, which codifies the test laid out by the Supreme Court of Canada, as well as removing the requirement of the consent of a provincial attorney general in order to prosecute a crime of hate. This is important to allow police to do their job when they see hate in our communities. By way of conclusion, we cannot ignore hate in our communities and expect that it will not fester. If we do not take action, we will be responsible for the hate that will continue to impact communities across this country. I should mention as well that there are many behaviors that are despicable in this country, that are characterized by hatred towards another, that may not reach a criminal threshold. It is important that we do not fail one another, as we have in too many instances in the past. When you see hate in your community, we have a responsibility to address it. It is my view that we are responsible in the end, not only for the acts that we commit, but for the instances where we see an injustice and choose to stand idly by. Folks, we owe a duty to our neighbours to be good neighbours. It's a very Canadian value, and I hope that we can all exercise it in our daily lives. Merci tout le monde. C'est un plaisir d'être ici.